Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be our monthly ASIC pricing update video. This is going to be for September 2023, right? So it's kind of our pricing update where we look at deviations in prices. We're looking for anything that's been going up and mainly try to focus on what's been going down, right? So we're trying to find those best bangs for the bucks, going to compare different vendors so we can get the best deals, right? So if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned, all right? So let's get to it. We'll go over a price chart real quick, which is mainly just BTC. Just kind of gives us the overall feel of the entire crypto market. Because when BTC pumps, the alts pump, and vice versa, right? So even if you're not into BTC mining, this is one of the main charts you always want to focus on because, again, the price of the asset is going to greatly affect the price of the miner, right? So currently, if we look at the previous 30 days, been in a range, right? Pretty much stuck between 25.5 and 27, right? We did have a nice little pump earlier on, as well as a nice little dump. Both were pretty short-lived, ultimately just stuck in this range. If we go back a little bit farther, we were previously in this range, between 28 and 30K. A lot of the miner prices do not want to let go from that price range, right? Ultimately, we didn't have a whole lot of drops, and even the drops we did have weren't as significant. I think people are just still iffy about where the market is really going, right? So again, what we kind of want to see if we want cheaper prices is a sustained downtrend, right? The prices aren't going to dip if it's just, we're down for a couple of weeks, right? We need a nice sustained downtrend for us to continue receiving these price cuts, right? So let's get to it. Let's look at mine the ASIC. For the most part, the only real deviations in profitability are just the Caspa miners, right? Which is pretty much going to be a given every month. It's going to just continue to go down and down. Not saying that these things are the worst thing ever. It's just that's the reality of it, right? Until the hash rate levels off, which probably won't be for another few more months, we'll get a better idea of where the current market's at, right? Interesting things to know are the prices of these Caspa miners, right? Primarily the high-end guys, the KS3s. They've been dropping, right? What it's kind of looking like is Ice Rivers being super, super smart. So the KS3s, again, like we mentioned in the other videos, no vendor has officially shown them as being sold out. They're still listed, they're still there, and the prices are in fact dropping. Right, if we look at BT miners, we can see they actually added another variant. There's the 8.2, there's now a 8.5, as well as the newly announced 9.4, right? Interesting part, these lower end guys coming in at under 30K, 28,000, 28,920, which is still ridiculous. But the reason these are going down is because number one, they're not selling, and number two, Ice River's being super smart. Ice River is actually the one controlling the market right now. Reason being is because a similar model, their version of the KS3 is down to, the September batch is 24K, the October batch is down to 21,000, right? Which again, is still crazy expensive. Will not consider this price point because the price is going to be dictated essentially by bitmain's greed, right? Until they fully decide to lower these things, which is kind of the expectation. I think that's why so many people are hesitant just because it's so overpriced, right? I mean, it's really hard to say, right? If you look at the profitability, it's amazing. It's ridiculous, right? We go back on Mine the ASIC, look at the KS3, the 8.3, 240 bucks a day, right? So if it were to remain that way, yes, the price is justified. The problem is that as these come out, as we all know, difficulty increases, yield goes down, profitability goes down. Ice River is controlling the pace of the price, right? And they're betting on bitmain's greed. And it's working out so far. So pretty much every batch, Ice River has consistently dropped the price on every model, right? Not just their KS3s, but the KS3L, the KS3M, and even the KS0, which is down to 449 right now. So by doing this, Bitmain is going to be forced to lower the price. And until they do an extremely aggressive price cut, Ice River is just going to keep undercutting them, right? So as we saw now, that KS3 is now in the 20K range, and they're going to slowly creep down, and they're going to continue to get those sales that Bitmain isn't, right? Which is a pretty interesting turn of events considering that this is usually Bitmain's game, right? As we saw with what they did with Gold Shell, etc., etc. So super, super interesting. It's going to be crazy to see what they do, right? Are they going to just continue to play this game where it's a slow creep down? That's what it's looking like. And that really benefits any of you guys who got in early with those ice rivers. If this continues to play out, you're just going to continue to stack, 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 right? So just pretty interesting turn of events. Again, I wouldn't recommend buying one only because there's extreme potential for bitmain to one day rip off the band-aid and freaking drop that thing down to 15K or something, right? What is it going to happen? Not very likely, right? I think it'll be more just a gradual decrease, right? Kind of what like Ice River's doing. So we'll see how this thing plays out. I'm going to keep my eye on it only because these things will be extremely interesting once the hash rate settles, right? So in like 2-3 months, potentially even longer. Again, look, the profitability is just insane. It's freaking $250 a day. Even if it gets cut in half, it's 125. Even if it goes up to 80 petahash, right? The freaking difficulty for it, it's still going to make like $60 a day, right? So it's just extreme potential once the price finally finds that point, right? Like right now, it's too much risk to jump in now. Again, this is mainly beneficial for you guys who got in early, took that risk. It's paying off, especially because Caspa has been doing so well, right? It just continues to do extremely, extremely well, which is just nuts, right? So now let's look at some of the other price drops. The other big price drop is with the D9, right? If you guys follow me on Twitter, follow Bitmain on Twitter, we did see that recent announcement of that restock and that they were reducing the price, right? They did a little game or if you guess the new reduced price, you get a coupon, etc. So that gave us the clue that there was definitely a price cut cutting. And it was fairly aggressive, right? Not a bad price now. It brought it back to the range of where it was a few months ago, right? Recently, there's been a lot of interest just because of the X11 algorithm with BlockX, with it being so profitable for those few weeks, a few months, and even now it's still more profitable than mining Dash with it, right? So that kind of renewed a little bit of interest in it. So people shot up the price. And now ultimately it's back in that range where it was prior to that, right? Realistically, this is where it should have been from the get-go, right? So it's currently $3,600 new from them. If we kind of price shop around, CMC has it at 4,300, Miner Bros at 4,100. So not a bad price from BT Miners. At this price point, is it worth it? It's getting there, right? It is appealing, mainly in the sense that it kind of depends on your value proposition, right? So if you're in the mindset like me, one big thing I look for is what is the likelihood that a replacement will come out before all the bullish action of this bull market, right? And at this point, because of this being a more recent release, being a less popular algorithm, the odds are pretty good that you won't see another replacement prior to before the price hike from the bull market, right? So that's one big thing I do kind of factor in, and for that reason, and then for this BlockX project, if that were to take off, gives it a little more credence. So it's one I would keep on the radar, maybe if it goes down a little bit more. And honestly, one I'm like super excited to get even at this price point, even at the like $2,500 price point, but it's something I would keep my eye on solely for that reason, right? So not bad deals there. If we look at the profitability, it's pretty interesting to see here. So the daily profit, if we go on what to mine, we put in our stats, which is 1770 gigahash a second at 2839 watts. That way we can get a better representation. So if you're mining BlockX, right, which is that newer coin, 558 daily profit, right? If you throw it on NiceHash, it's still actually more profitable than mining Dash outright, mainly for that reason, right? So pretty interesting stuff there. Again, not the craziest profitability, but because everything is kind of in a downtrend, that's kind of the case with everything, right? So that was one big price dip. Now let's look at another one. The E9 Pros finally went back down again, right? Ultimately, they had creeped up to like $2,500 just because we were in that like 30K range. Everything kind of creeped up a little bit. Now it's finally slowly retraced. So this is for the lower end model, right? This is the 3480. It's down to 1940, right? So under 2K. Which is not bad, not bad. If we look at CMC, they have this is the 3580, so give or take each variance, about $100 difference. So they have it at nearly 2,600, and Miner Bros at 2,349 for the same 3480 model, right? So nice little drop there. The Jazz Miner creeped down a little bit, right? It's keeps getting kind of delayed though. I think currently it's out to October now, which is technically just a few weeks away, but I don't know if it's been production issues or what's going on, but they have had issues with some of their pre-orders. So the October batch is down to 2,900. Just kind of getting there, right? Maybe if it goes in the $2,500 range, it's more enticing just because of the efficiency, right? Especially if we're in this crappy price action for a while, efficiency is definitely going to be king. This is, cream of the crop when it comes to ETC miners. Is it the best bang for the buck? My personal opinion, no. But again, if the price drops down low enough, it's definitely more appealing or enticing, especially right now in this bear market, depending on how much lower we go. Because even the E9 Pro is borderline at break even, right? And again, you do have the advantage with this guy that you're able to dual mine. You could do, with ZIL mining, etc., etc. So pretty interesting stuff there. So BT Miners does have it at 29. CMC has it at 33. Miner Bros at 33. So pretty much none of these other guys have lowered. BT Miners did go down a bit. It was last month. It was like at 32, 3,300. So they go down a touch. Not low enough in my opinion, but not a bad price there. Let's look at an interesting new guy, right? And this is the X5, which... weird. Still, I don't think I keep looking. I haven't seen anybody with these things in hand yet. They should have already started shipping. Not sure what's going on there. Maybe they're just now shipping, or maybe they're going to wait till the last day of the month to call it a September batch. They do that fairly often, but the price did creep up, right? Bitmain did have that little sellout thing, which who knows if that's real, but in my opinion, they did it just to pull some hype, which it worked, right? Because pretty much all the stores had it at a certain price. They had it around 3K, and immediately after that sellout, just like we thought they would, the prices all went up, right? So BT Miners initially was one of the first ones to pump up their price, and now it turns out they're one of the cheaper ones, right? So they have it at 3,400. Miner Bros at 3,800. It's ridiculous. And then CMC has it listed as sold out at 3,000, which is kind of interesting because the price was higher, and then now they marked it as sold out and lowered the price after, which is kind of interesting. So we'll see what happens here. I think they're just running off of the hype of the fake sellout. Expect the prices to drop, most likely, especially just kind of depends on what happens when people get these things in hand. If they are what we're predicting or what we're thinking, where you're going to be fairly limited in what you can mine, prices will probably drop a little bit. But if it's like open source and people are throwing this thing on Varus, then expect the demand to increase, right? So the prices will probably stay where they're at. But we'll kind of see where it goes. We'll see how the shipping looks like and go from there. But realistically, these are, especially Miner Bros, this is extremely overpriced for what it is, right? But we'll see what happens. I'm excited to see what these things are like when people get them in hand. Hopefully we find out fairly soon, right? So let's go on to the next one. So the Z15 Pros also dropped a bit. Not as low as where they were, right? A few months ago, 2-3 months ago, they were down to under 2K. They were like 19 and change. Then with that recent run up, they all went up to 3K. Now, finally, it did drop a little bit as of a few weeks ago. BT Miners has it at 2,580. Miner Bros at 3,000 and CMC at 3,200. So these two guys still haven't updated their price. BT Miners did lower it down to 2,580. Some of the Telegram vendors have it a little bit lower. They have it more in the 2,300 to 2,400 range. So still potential for it to go a little bit lower, just depending on how the market goes, right? And this is one I'm somewhat interested in, not to mine Zcash. They've been having issues lately, but mainly for Zen, right? Very interesting, especially if it goes down to the $2,000 range. It's one I'm kind of keeping my eye on. Kind of interesting. 2,580 is still a little bit high. 2K, not too bad, right? So again, we'll see where the price trends go there. This has been the most interesting, right? Mainly because now we do have a lot more insight as to what's coming out in the near term, right? The question with getting any BTC miners, whether it was the S19K, S19J Pro Plus, or the XP, any of these, are what's on the horizon, right? What is the next gen going to bring? So far, two of them have released, right? We do have the one from Kanan, and the S21's getting debuted here in the next few days. What we do know, though, is that those aren't going to be coming out until after the halving, right? So if you're currently in the market now, these are some of the better deals, right? So to me, the best bang for the buck right now is actually this guy. It's the K Pro Plus, right? So again, we had done that video. We did that little update video once we learned a few more things, and we do have another update actually. We'll talk about that here in a second. So again, this guy's coming in at 120 terahash. The biggest thing we learned about it is that it's running on XP chips, right? It's not as many as a full XP. I think it was 110 chips versus the 77 in this one. But we did confirm that they are XP chips. Efficiency is fairly good, right? It's at 23.5 joules a terahash in comparison to the 21 for the XP, so it's within 10%. Again, 120 terahash is almost the same as that S19J Pro Plus. The difference being this guy is a good amount more efficient, right? So BT Miners has it at 2500, which is on the higher end. We're going to go to the cheaper one, which in this case is not BT Miners, so we'll highlight them. Miner Bros actually has a pretty good price. They lowered theirs to about 2100, which isn't bad. CMC has it at 2700, which is on the high end. Best deal though, Altertech, they did just lower their price. It's down to under 2K, so it's at $19.99, which is the best price. Shout out to Altertech. Again, I do have links for BT Miners and Altertech in the description. If you guys are interested, let me update you on this guy though. We did do that update video last week, and we got a lot of information from Altertech, and this week they gave us even more information. So now they were able to overclock it using an Epic board, and the results were pretty interesting, right? One being how high they were able to get it up to. They got it up to about 170 terahash at 4700 watts, right? The most interesting thing that came out of it, though, to me at least, was how much cooler this thing runs in comparison to the XP when you're overclocking it. Right, so again, follow them on Twitter. That way you can take a better look at these charts if you're interested in. It's at altair_tech. Again, if you're into BTC mining, into tech, and looking at different miners, an extremely good follow on Twitter, right? So we did find out that they do seem to run cooler, right? Which is very, very interesting, and it's something we do want to see, especially at the higher end. This to me was the most intriguing thing. So they focused on it, saying that essentially their thought process, it's because of the heat sinks, the soldered on heat sinks versus the big guy on the XP. So it could be that, definitely, right? The other thing you got to factor in though is that it's just less chips inside the unit also, right? So to me that will also probably play into some effect on there. But again, the big thing overall is that especially when you're overclocking it, air cooled, right? Obviously, if it's immersed, it's a whole different story. But being air cooled, it did run cooler, right? Which is pretty interesting there. When they overclocked it, in comparison, you can see that the S19K did do worse than the XP. But again, because it's less chips, so you're clocking a little bit higher, you can see the best they were able to get was about 21.8 joules a terahash at 95 terahash, which is pretty good, right? Pretty interesting stuff there. So down to $2,000. Is it gonna go much lower from here? I kind of don't think so. Maybe $100 or something. Even if we have like pretty significant price drops, only just because of all the hype coming. We have the new, S21 models, the new Kanan model. What's Miner's gonna debut theirs next month, the M60. The main reason I don't see a whole lot of more price cuts for this guy is just the fact that there's still more miners they gotta sell, right? We know that the J9 Pro Plus is pretty much right in this range also. If anything, that's where I would see the cut coming, is for the J9 Pro Pluses. Maybe they'll go back into that like $1,400 range. I could see a bigger cut there, but to me, I don't think it's going to go down a whole lot more. Especially also considering there's still another model coming out. We still have the S19J XP coming out, right? They're not going to want to undercut that. They're going to want to get rid of these models first. I just don't see them dropping them a whole lot. And even if the S21 comes in at a very good price, again, factor in that thing's not going to come out until towards the halving, right? Maybe right before, but most likely right after, right? So these are the kinds of things you really got to factor in. And the fact that we do now have insight into these next-gen models, because the only one we're still waiting on is for WhatsMiner. But most likely they're going to follow the same playbook. They're going to debut it next month, and it's probably going to be the same thing where it's a Q1, Q2 release, which again probably won't affect the current prices too much just because they are so far out, right? So overall, bang for the buck wise, the S19K Pros looking pretty dang good, right? Especially now also that we know what's coming out between now and the end of the year, right? So it kind of gives you, at least for me, if I were in the market, that would give me a little bit more confidence, right? The thing that would have screwed everything up is that come December, freaking bitmain drops the S21 and the thing's only 3K and it's 200 terahash, but that's not going to be the case. Now we know that we know what's coming out between now and the end of the year, and now what's coming out Q1, Q2, and what's the next gen already, right? Again, the one we're missing is just WhatsMiner, but I would expect it to be in line with the other two, right? Unless it's something extremely dramatic, and even if it is, it's probably going to be reflected in the price as well, right? So just all things to consider. But overall, hopefully, it looks like the prices are starting to dip down a little bit. I think a lot of these vendors are starting to realize that the price may stay in this range a little bit. Who knows? Usually October, November are much better months. But who knows, right? Anything can happen. But again, if you want cheap hardware, now people are getting bummed out because of the price action between BTC and all the other alts. But again, if you want cheap hardware, this is what we need to see, right? We need to see sustained lowered prices so we can get cheaper hardware, right? All right, guys, let me know in the comments. Let me know if you guys are buying anything, if you guys are holding off more, like me personally. Again, I'm more into the altcoin miners, kind of waiting out a little bit more, maybe hopefully next month, especially because typically November, especially in the US here, is a big month for sales. You know, we have Black Friday. We know a lot of people tend to spend during that time, so that's kind of what I'm eyeing more. That's kind of more my cutoff, so we'll see, and we'll see if anything gets announced, right? I've been kind of waiting to see if bitmain's ever going to announce this L9 thing, which to me, realistically, probably not, right? At least not in the short term. To me, it would have been done at this event, right? WDMS is one of their bigger of events. You would think that they would announce it there, pre-order for like a spring release. But the fact that they're not doing that, kind of weird, right? So we'll keep our eyes open. We'll see what's going on. We'll see where these price trends go. But overall, still looking for cheaper hardware, right? But again, these prices, pretty freaking good, especially for some of them, right? So it's kind of the risk versus reward thing I was talking about. Just kind of depends on where you're at. Like me, I'm pretty much at max capacity. That's why I'm kind of more. But if you're still thinking about it, you're still early on, out of these prices, I don't think you're going to deviate a whole lot, right? So just some stuff to think about, guys. All right, just wanted to give you that update. Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching, and I am out.